I definitely have some sentimental attachment. It's the only golf course I really feel like I have a personal attachment to like see it be built and be there and get to document that was awesome. I took Tom and Angela's headshots the day before my wedding. One of the guys had that Bryson Bung shot, and a small crowd had gathered, and the guy just fled onto the roof. I was like, I tell you, that happens often. So.
Pine Talk is where Carolina golf's past, present, and future come together. We dive into the stories, courses, and people that make Carolina golf special. Because golf here is more than just a scorecard.
Welcome back to Pine Talk. My name is Ryan. I'm the owner and founder of Palmetto and Pine Golf Company, a brand that's based around highlighting golf here in the Carolinas. And I do this interview series to talk with people with different backgrounds related to golf here in the Carolinas. And here I am with Matt Gibson. He's I think your official title is Senior Manager of Digital Content.
Correct, yeah, correct.
At the Pinehurst Resort. So Matt, welcome.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm honored. I don't know how many British people you've had on a Carolina golf podcast. So yeah, honored to maybe be the first British person. So
this is the first, and I'm gonna start this off different than I've done anything else.
Okay.
Usually I write down my questions and everything. But yesterday I put it up on the story asking people for questions. I want to start off with some of those. Okay. Some of them cracked me up.
So can I, before you even start asking some questions, I have received at least 10 messages from people saying, hey, I've submitted some I don't know what the correct word I'm looking for is, but some rogue questions. I actually submitted a question myself.
Yeah.
Did you get my question?
Yeah, that was going to be my first one. Excellent. So how do you remain so humble and handsome at the same time?
It's really impossible to say. You know what I mean? It's a dangerous balance being so humble and so handsome. It's difficult.
That's super tough.
I actually told my wife that I entered that question as a joke, and she was like, do you think your sense of humor is going to come across? And I was like, I don't know, because otherwise it's going to make me like such an asshole.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, yep, that's going to be the first thing I even ask you. The next, this is the Herd 12000.
Okay.
What is one moment that sticks out to you recently that's fulfilled you in your position?
Great question. Last year was a huge year for Pinehurst. Obviously, we had the US Open and Pinehurst number 10 opened. I don't know which of... I had a moment on Sunday evening after the US Open where we had an amazing week. The tournament itself was amazing. And all the content we did had turned out really well. And I bought myself, we have this Woodford Reserve with the resort, and there was a US Open one, and I had saved that bottle to open on Sunday. And I just sat with my wife and I poured myself a glass of that bourbon, and I was like, that was probably the proudest moment of my professional career. Just Sunday evening, everything was done. It was probably 1 a.m. at that point, because by the time you'd left and everything had happened, I think Sunday at the US Open has to be one off the draft board, but number 10 is a very close second.
Yeah. And so you have that Sunday. What are those are those next couple days, are they a relief? Is it almost a letdown? Do you feel are you burnt out? What does that feel like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually had to come take some photos the next day for Tom Pashley, the president. He asked me to take some photos for some USGA. So it was kind of all systems go still. And then maybe I'm misremembering, but we had the North and South Amateur a week later. Uh-huh. So I think I took maybe Tuesday off. I took maybe Tuesday and Wednesday off. And then we were right back into it because we had North and South Amateur. And then I took 3 weeks off in October. But yeah, it was definitely a sense of relief, a sense of pride, and I took a couple days off, and then North-South Amateur, and we almost had Jackson Van Paris, a local kid almost won, so it would have been really cool.
That's sweet. Next one, Leah M. Ruby, which I guess, is she a coworker of yours?
Okay, yeah, I don't know if you can read any of Leah's questions. So Leah is on my team. So Leah, I guess, reports to me, or however you want to word that. And so she told me she submitted a couple questions as well. So I'm interested to see what she said.
She did some good ones. First, where do you draw your inspiration from?
It's a good question. I'm not sure there's one source where I get my inspiration from. I think it's, I don't know how you find your inspiration. I think there's so many talented people out there in the world that there's not one person who I'm this is the person I'm trying to emulate, or this is a thing that I saw that I want to recreate. You're on your phone and you get served stuff, and the amount of times I see a TikTok or my wife will send me something and I'll be like, wait, would be a great idea for Pinehurst. We should do this. So my brain's like constantly on, which is like somewhat of a curse. But yeah, I'm not going to list every photographer. There are two facets of that, the photography side and then the content side, which I think are two somewhat separate hats. But on the photography side, there are so many amazing golf photographers. I'm not going to name all of them. And so trying to find your own style amongst an incredible selection of people. And then from the content side, yeah, I'm just constantly thinking, constantly on. I'm like, hey, this would be a good idea for Pinehurst, or this would be a good idea. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's been like the cool. Like I constantly try to find something that's like almost in other like areas, like something maybe it's semi-sports related, or maybe not even like it could just be general lifestyle stuff, and just see how can I do something golf related or fit that to the brand? And I have a lot of fun doing that kind of thing.
So I don't know if you saw our video. We did it on Sunday at the US Open, the Father's Day video. We had this like wind phone idea where people were leaving their fathers messages. And I'm not going to say I stole that idea, but I saw a video a month before where someone was on, you know, like the red phone boxes in London. Someone was on one of the bridges in London, and they were in this red phone box, and it was this mother, and she was like holding a child, and she was on the phone, and they had done a wind phone where she was leaving her mother a message, and she was like, thank you so much for everything you've done for me. I like now appreciate like what you've done now that I'm a mother. And it was this amazing thing, and the video was zooming out, just a really slow zoom out, and it must have been shot on like an 800 lens or something. And I was like, what a great idea. And that was just a video that I saw that was shot in London. And that was like, hang on, we've got Father's Day. We have the US Open. This is something that like, I think might work as a piece of content. And it did. Not that the ultimate metric of success is views, but sometimes the ultimate metric of success is views. Not that that's how I like to completely measure success, but yeah.
And so like, when it comes to something like content, like how far in advance are you even planning that? Or is some of it just like literally the day before? Like, do you come across an idea and just like, let's do this?
Are we talking for US Open, or are we talking for just Pinehurst Resort?
Just Pinehurst Resort.
Pinehurst Resort, the marketing team here will say that I am just like constantly on the go. I wish I could sit here and say like, I have the content schedule planned out 3 months in advance, but I don't. Like, I just don't. And sometimes we had first day of spring, and we know that we're going to be posting on this specific day, and we can build a schedule around that. And so that you can build out a little bit ahead of time. I would say we're operating a couple weeks ahead, but yeah, I wish I could say that it was built 3 months. But also the course changes and the course evolves, and so I don't like to shoot something in, for example, number 10. Number 10, we took a bunch of awesome photos when it opened a year ago in April. And then in October, the golf course looked completely different. So those photos I had shot in April were now semi-rendered useless because the golf course was so completely different. So yeah.
Next question: how often do you get a fresh cut?
That was from Leah. She always tells me I get my hair cut too often. I'm a strict like every 2 weeks guy, because I've been my New Year's resolution has been to lose a bit of weight, and so I've been going to the gym a lot. And
bees.
Yeah, I know that those bees won't sting you. They're just trying to pollinate stuff. So those they're pretty friendly bees. And so when I go to the gym, I like to have my hair short. So I get it cut every couple of weeks. So now you have this weird niche bit of knowledge. My hair's actually pretty long for me right now. I know. So this will be getting trimmed down, right down to a skin fade in next week probably.
I've been doing the opposite. I'm letting mine rage.
I noticed when you took your hat off, it's long. I like it.
This is the longest I've had since college.
It looks
for sure.
good, man. And how long have you been growing out for?
Probably. It's already March, almost April. I mean, I probably last got a haircut in like December, maybe November. So it's been 5 months or so.
Good for you, man. Yeah, I wish I could do that. Mine just gets like a little thick. I don't know. It's the Asian hair. It just gets like big. It doesn't get like luscious like yours. It just gets like, it doesn't look good.
Do you have a favorite golf course?
Do I have a favorite golf course?
And I guess you can keep it U.S. or international.
Maybe one of the St. Andrews courses. I was very fortunate. I went to university in St. Andrews. I love the Castle course. Obviously love the old course. I'm going to say Pinehurst number 10. I love Pinehurst number 10. I got to know Angela Moser really well. She's someone who I would say is a friend. I was very fortunate to spend a bit of time with Tom Doak. and I'm unbearable when I play that golf course. I'm like, here's how they were designing the. But from a personal point of view, I just got to see a golf course go from like the woods to a brand new amazing golf course, and I definitely have some sentimental attachment. It's the only golf course I really feel like I have a personal attachment to like see it be built and be there and get to document that was awesome. I took Tom and Angela's headshots the day before my wedding. You know what I mean? Like that's how I think about that golf course. Like I mark times in my life around number 10. Not that if you ask my wife, how do I think about the day before my wedding? I go, oh yeah, that's when I took the headshot of Tom and Angela. So, but yeah, it definitely has a special place in my heart. And number 2, how could you not love number 2? But number 10, I think, for sure.
And I mean, that's why I've gotten really into the golf architecture side of things since starting the brand. Because I mean, what you're saying, like you got to witness, I mean, that's not to try and compare it to a human being, but that's the, birth of a child.
100%. Dude, it's amazing. Like, and I learned so much in that year and a half that, you think you know everything. Well, I don't think I know everything, but like you are like, I know so much about this art and this craft, and then you see a golf course being built, and I was like, I don't know anything about how to shoot a brand new golf course. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to do before and afters, and I was like, my drone was at the wrong height, and so I've just learned a lot from that thing, and it was awesome, and so now I have this like very niche skill of like, hey, if I know how to document a golf course being built, so yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I love the stories, the nuances to courses, like when they were building it, like this was supposed to be this green, or this tee box was supposed to be over here, or 100%. This tree, like this tree fell down and now it's a part of the course, like
and it's amazing because you play a golf course and you see the golf course as a player with what's in front of you. And really you see it as like, what's your next shot? You're like, okay, I hit the drive to the middle of the fairway and now I've got 130 yards in and I'm going to hit it to the middle of the green or whatever. And unless you're really in tune to golf architecture, which again, I was not that in tune to golf architecture, and now I'm like really into it because I got to see how much thought goes into every single thing that you don't realize. Like, I'm a huge cinephile. I love movies, and I love one of my favorite things is watching the behind the scenes of how they made it, because I'm just fascinated at like, how did you put this thing together? And so golf architecture it's obviously not the exact same, but like it's something you could very easily just look at it and be like, okay, this is a golf hole. It's, we're on the first tee of number 2. You'd be like, okay, it's a 370-yard par 4. I'm just going to hit a 3-wood out to the middle, but you lose all the nuance. You like, there's a bunker here, there's a bunker there. They're trying to get you to play out to the right, but it's actually better to go to the left. There's so many subtleties that you don't realize until you see it up hand, which I know you have as well, and it's awesome.
I've really loved that side of golf.
Yeah.
I don't think I even mentioned that. We are on the back patio of the Pinehurst, main resort area. Literally the number one tee of course number 2 is right behind us. And you can see the putting green and everything. Someone asked, how often do people get hit by golf balls sitting on the patio behind 18 of number 2?
The deuce, I think somewhat regularly. I think more often than we care to allude to. So maybe I shouldn't say that if I'm wearing my Pinehurst hat. People definitely get hit. I've never seen a broken window. The issue we have now is Bryson obviously hit that super famous bunker shot.
Oh gosh.
And people will now want to hit that bunker shot. My office is right upstairs in the clubhouse. We find at least I would say 3 balls a week on the roof. So
people are just sculling Bryson shots.
Yeah, just firing them. We actually had so Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce were here last week, and we didn't do anything with them. They were here to play golf, so we didn't, speak to them, and we wanted to live in their privacy. But in their group on 18, one of the guys had that Bryson bunker shot, and a small crowd had gathered, and the guy just fled onto the roof. I was like, I tell you, that happens often. So
that's nuts. All right, I'm guessing this guy is probably a friend of your Fraser Hadfield.
Okay,
that's the account name.
That's my my college roommate.
Okay, so I figured it was potentially something like that. And when I read this question, I was like, "Yep, I need to know this story."
Oh God.
He said, "Does the 18th on the old course play better in the daylight or at midnight after the pub?" Was that a thing you guys?
Yeah. So we were Fraser and I went to St. Andrews together. We were best friends. I was best man at his wedding. He officiated my wedding. He actually is an amazing actor. He's incredibly. He was just in a huge studio movie, the new Michael Gracie movie. Anyway, so I'm now like stroking Fraser's ego. Anyway, our hall of residence in first year was John Burnett, and my room looked onto the Swilcombe Bridge. So that's how close we were to the 18th hole. Anyway, it was like a tradition that we were told as freshmen in America, you had to try and steal the flag on 18 of the old course. And so, yeah, it feels sort of like sacrilege to say, and maybe I shouldn't say this because now I'm like in the golf industry, but it was a thing that people did in John Burnett. I'm not going to say if I did or didn't because I have a golf career to maintain, but you would occasionally come downstairs after a big night out and there would just be like the 18th flag from the old course. And people would always get in trouble. You'd be like, hey, you're not allowed to do that. And the really full circle moment for me is obviously now I'm very fortunate to work in Pinehurst. We have a Ryder Cup wager with the old course. So if Europe wins, we put the 18th flag from St. Andrews on the 18th hole in number 2 and vice versa. So I now have an 18th flag from the old course at St. Andrews in my office because of this wager. So it feels like a very full circle moment where I'm like, let's say, it's kind of a pinch yourself thing that I'm like, I went to university there and now I've got this thing in my office because of this wager. And I've been very fortunate to be at 2 unbelievable spots for golf in my life. So, yeah.
Yeah, do you have a favorite court? Like, how many times have you played the old course?
A handful of times. I think it was like £180 when I was a student there for unlimited golf for the year, which is like the best deal in golf. So I played it, enough times to scratch the itch. I love all the golf. The golf there is just different. I played last year. My old boss is a member at the RNA. I actually don't know if I'm allowed to say that. He is.
I'll cut it out.
And we got off a red eye. My wife and I got off a red eye. We were going to Fraser's wedding actually in St. Andrews. And so we get into St. Andrews. I meet him for lunch in the RNA clubhouse. And he goes, well, the drinks are gin and tonic. So we have a couple gin and tonics. And then we have a bottle of wine with dinner. And then we have a 1 o'clock tea time on the new course. And I've slept maybe 3 hours from a red eye. I've had 3 gin and tonics and half a bottle of wine. And I'm looking down and I'm like, I don't know how to hit a golf ball, man. But it's a ton of fun. And I forget, when you live there, you take it for granted. But when I was there and I play more golf now than I did when I was a student, I had 60 yards into a green and I was picking out a wedge. And my boss was like, what are you doing? And, there's a 20-mile-an-hour wind. And he was like, we putt this here. And it's really cool. It's just a different style of golf. And it's really fun.
We're going to keep this rolling with the questions from the story, which my friend Danny Christensen, I don't know if you know him at all.
Yeah, I think I follow him on Instagram, yeah.
So he asked, if you could tell one story in golf through your visuals, what would it be?
That's a great question. If I could tell one story...
Is there a piece of content that you're really, would like to make?
That's a really good question. I had I have 2 answers to that. The first is one which I can no longer do, and it will be obvious in a second, and it will segue into the part B. We were very fortunate. We hosted a guy out here, and he was quite big on Reddit. His name was Milos Bogatic. He played basketball at Penn State. And he had various forms of cancer through his life. And I was very fortunate. He was someone who was so full of life and vigor for life, and he was amazing to speak to. And he created a post on Reddit. This was after I'd met him. A very good friend of mine, Vincent, actually was the one who brought him here. And Milos posted on Reddit that he wanted to go to St. Andrews because his health was really rapidly deteriorating. And he needed a medical car, and in St. Andrews, it's somewhat difficult to get a car. They really, really don't want cars out there. Anyway, Milos and Vincent went to St. Andrews, and then Milos unfortunately passed away somewhat recently. But in my head, I'd always wished that I had gone with them to St. Andrews to film a piece just about, I think golf is such a, like, I've really drunk the Kool-Aid of the sport in as far as when you're out here and you're out at Pinehurst every day, yes, you see golf, but you really see relationships. You see like a father and a son who have come here every year for 10 years. Or you see Milos, who came out here, it was a dying wish of his to play Pinehurst. And so marrying those two ideas, and so I had just watched, somewhat recently, I watched this Paul Thomas Anderson movie, Magnolia. Amazing movie, Tom Cruise is in it, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I told you I'm a big cinephile, and I should have seen it before. Anyway, it's this 3-hour-long movie where all these different stories intertwine. I'm not sure what the exact idea is, but in my head, it's somewhat of telling various people's stories, and the through thread is the sport of golf, which, like, yes, it's a sport, but really it's about the time spent with loved ones, and it's the time spent outside, and it's how it brings people and communities together in a way that I'm not sure many other sports like really do. So that would be the one that's like, again, the first one is something that I wish I had done, but it definitely makes me think about that from a more ethereal point of how can we tell that, which I'm not sure like you could ever get tired of trying to tell.
Yeah. And that's got me thinking, because like the one thing I love, like I'm just thinking about the Pinehurst like resort account.
Yeah.
Which, like, how, like, were you the one that like came on board and wanted to do all this like storytelling type of content? Because that's what, like, it's so different. Like every other golf course is like, here, take a look at this picture of this golf course. Like nobody, I can't think of another like course or account that I follow that like is so focused on the storytelling of the place.
That means a lot. I wish I could say I was the one who like was the person who had the original idea. My original title was digital storyteller. And it was Tom Pashley, who's the president here, I believe. This would need fact checking. But he was the one who wanted someone in-house who could be like, hey, this is our person who's going to like have an emphasis on stories. Alex Podlegar's on the team. He's an amazing writer. If you go on our website, he writes these amazing stories. We just did the story of the brothers who had the hole-in-one on 17. Alex wrote this amazing feature. And then I filmed the video. And so those work in tandem with each other. But Tom is someone who really gets behind that. And I worked at Golf Channel. I was in news before that. So I definitely got Alex was a sports writer. So he and I definitely have like a nose for stories as well. And a nose for like, it means a lot that you're sitting here saying like, you know, a lot of golf accounts are going to post golf course beauties, which we do. Yeah. But we don't do it as much because, yeah, to me, the best part about this place, aside from obviously the US Open golf course and other golf courses, are the people who are here. Be it the people who work here, like you saw me yelling at Roger, the starter here, and he was like, thanks for the photos, or the guests, or like people who come through on a date, that like, it's the people who make any place. Yeah. That's not just true to Pinehurst, it's true to any place, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, I just think from like the social media standpoint, like obviously, I mean, it's 2025, like that's how like a lot of us, like, I mean, I know for me, like I run the brand, like I'm constantly like, I find stuff through social media, whether it's people that tell me about it or finding an account that shares the pictures or something like that.
Well, dude, I noticed you shared the Payne story in '99 where he played at Hicks's event. And like, again, we can get into the minutiae of like what performs well on social media and what doesn't. And I've never been someone who's motivated by like views and like counts, and I probably should be more, but I'm not, because to me, I'm like, does this stir an emotion in me? Does this make me feel something? And that's not to say a golf course beauty doesn't make me feel something, but stuff like the storytelling is, to me, what we're trying to do. And yeah, like I said, it means a lot that you picked up on that. So yeah.
I think it's really neat because it adds to like the lore of Pinehurst. Like it makes people want to come here like more. I just think it's really neat. I think more places should try to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, like we try and we're scouring a lot, and there's no perfect science to it, and it meant a lot. So one of the brothers who we interviewed, the Hubbard story, which if anyone who's listening or watching hasn't seen, I would encourage you to do it because it's a video I'm really proud of. We posted the full video on Instagram, and this comes back full circle to me saying like, I don't really buy into like likes and social media algorithms. I have to understand it a little bit, but we posted the full 8-minute video on Instagram. Like you just don't do that, because to me, the video needed to be 8 minutes, and I wasn't going to do a 90-second cut, because if you do a 90-second cut, you would have lost, 6/8 or 7/8 of the story, and that like was disingenuous to me. So to me, it's about what feels right and feels true to our brand. And yeah, it didn't feel right to shorten it because like Mark Zuckerberg says it has to be 90 seconds. Like, sorry, but like, okay, then if you don't, I said, like, if you're not going to consume the 8-minute video, then it's not for you. I don't know what to tell you. And like, have a great day. It's not going to affect you either way. It's not going to affect me either way if you watch it or don't. But the people who did watch the full 8 minutes were like, I hope we're like, yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, that's an incredible story. I mean, the fact that that guy made a hole-in-one on 17 is nuts.
Yeah, a ridiculously hard hole. I mean, and the whole story is crazy, but yeah, it's, I mean, to make any hole-in-one on this golf course, the par 3s on number 2 are just, like, impossible. I don't know how, I mean, I've got a 2-on-2, you know, you get the 2-on-2 coin. Mm-hmm. My 2-on-2 coin is not on a par 3. I hold out from 150 yards on a par 4 because I've never birdied the par 3s. They're so difficult out here. So
what hole did you make the eagle?
It was 2 days before we got married. I was playing with my father-in-law and my stepfather and Fraser, and I jarred out on hole 11. And hole 12, the tee box is right there. It's right to the right of the green, and there was a group there, and they didn't say anything. I'm not very good at golf. You play with me. I'm a 13. I can get around. I can occasionally hit a good shot, clearly. And I hit a perfect shot up there. I just knew it was so good. And then I walked up to the green, and there was no ball on the green. And 11 has a fall-off area at the back, and I was like, shit, I cannot believe that's gone long. That was perfect. I hit it perfectly. So I go long, and I'm like, man, there's nothing there. And then my pitch mark was 6 feet in front of the hole, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'll look inside. If it's not there, and it was there, but I couldn't. But they didn't shout or anything, so I was like, it couldn't have gone in. So yeah, my 2-on-2 was on a par 4, which is
crazy.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no, yeah, that guy just hold out. Yeah, okay.
They didn't say anything, so I was like, it's got to be long, man. So.
That's crazy. Do you have is there a, and maybe the way that this was asked, my buddy Jack W. Bundy, he asked, what's your favorite hidden or secret spot at Pinehurst? I guess that you're willing or able to share.
Hidden or secret spot in Pinehurst. So we've done a series of videos on our like TikTok, which are like, here are the hidden gems. So I'm probably the worst person to keep like secrets hidden because I'm like, this is a great piece of content. Yeah. What's the best hidden gem? I'm a big foodie, so it'd probably be a food spot. I'm going to say a hidden gem, which everyone says is a hidden gem. And the fact that everyone says it's hidden, therefore implies it's not hidden. But it's not part of the resort, but I'm going to say it. The track for breakfast is awesome. It's cash only. You like see the people in the kitchen like buttering the bread. It's like the vibe that I want from a place. You know what I mean? Yeah, I would say the track is a good, like, somewhat hidden spot. So, like, it's not on the resort, but yeah.
I gotta go there. I gotta try that one. All right, who's the most interesting person you've met while doing content for Pinehurst?
Interesting. I don't know if I would say anyone's like the most interesting. I think everyone's interesting. I would love to speak to everyone about like, hey, what made you the person you are? So I don't know if there's one like most interesting person.
Is there someone
I realize that's a cop-out answer, so I apologize. But there's not one who I'm like, this is like someone. Like if I've done a story on someone, that doesn't make them interesting per se. It makes the story of their golf shot interesting, but that's not me like trying to throw shade one way or another. So I think everyone's interesting. You know what I mean? Like Roger right there, who's starter on number 2. He was like a referee in like the Rose Bowl or something one year. So everyone's got a story to tell. And so it's like on us to like tell that, find the people whose stories that we want to tell. So I don't know if there's one most interesting.
Is there someone that pops out as like maybe they're the most entertaining to like make the content?
Yeah, I shot a video when I started with these 2 old gentlemen, Tom and Rich, who play Thistledew like 5 times a week. And they are just unbelievable at putting. I don't know how old they are. I'm not going to like go on the record and say they're 85 or something. But they're just awesome. They're 2 guys who love golf. I don't know how much they can play 18, but they come out and putt. And I tell you, I would not play either of them for cash on Thistledew, man. They are unbelievable at putting. So, and whenever I see them, they greet me like an old friend. So it's really cool.
That's awesome. All right, and that was from Webster, like the dictionary. I don't know if that's a friend or not.
Okay, Webster, that's my sister-in-law. sister-in-law, yeah.
Nice. All right. And then my friend, Ryan Grammatico,
Yeah.
he asked you, who are your top 2 creative inspirations?
That's so difficult. That's so difficult. My top 2 creative inspirations. I don't know. I'm going to kind of cop out. I said there are so many amazing photographers that I couldn't say like these are the top 2. I'll say like 2 publications, I guess, which is, again, I realize a bit of a cop out. I'm a huge fan of Golfer's Journal. I love everything they're doing. They're people who are storytelling in a similar way. And I love everything they do that they produce. I'm a huge fan of theirs. And Ian Gilly and his team at Sugarloaf are like awesome. I see everything they do and I'm like, man, this is just, they've like completely nailed it. So yeah, I don't know. There are so many people whose stuff I love that I'm never like, we could sit for an hour and I could just name all of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, let me break out my book. And
Yeah. How much time? We've got tea time to get to. So.
Okay. I'll cut off there with the questions from the people who sent those in. So thank you to everybody that asked something. I think that's kind of fun to see what other people would ask.
That was awesome. I can't, maybe when we're off camera, I'll see some of the other questions.
Yeah.
I bet there's some nonsense from my friends.
There was nothing too bad.
Okay,
it was all pretty good.
Okay, good.
All right. So, I mean, I guess walk me through, how did you even end up working for Pinehurst Resort?
Pinehurst?
What was your career path?
So I went to University of St. Andrews. I moved to America 10 years ago. I was working in news as like I actually really wanted to work in film. I was like a PA on movie sets. I loved it. In another life, I think I would have been, I don't know, I would say film director would have been my dream job. I don't know if I'd ever be good enough for that. But to work in film, my mum went to drama school. And so it's always been a point of interest. And then it was my dream job, probably still is my dream job, to be a Premier League commentator. And NBC had all the rights to the Premier League. And I was like, I got to find a way to get into NBC. And I got this degree from St. Andrews. So I got a job at Golf Channel. I loved working at Golf Channel. It was awesome. I did it when I was in my like mid-20s. I went to the PGA Tour. I was at the PGA Tour very briefly, and then my wife is from Winston-Salem. And so we had always been looking to be in North Carolina, and then, just life kind of happened, and we found ourselves, Pinehurst were hiring for a digital storyteller, and I think I probably meet this criteria, and that was almost 4 years ago, and yeah, we love it. We've done the whole thing. We bought a house. We got a golf cart, like full American suburban life. My friends in London are like, what have you become?
And when was the first time you picked up a camera? When did that start for you?
Man, I tell you, I think pick up a camera maybe in college, but I'm a graduate of YouTube University. I taught myself how to edit. I downloaded some illegal version of Final Cut on LimeWire or something. And I taught myself how to edit. And I remember just being 10. I was a child. And I was just in my room just editing videos. I just loved it. I would cut together my favorite, again, Premier League football, soccer is my favorite sport. And I would just edit together football compilations and things like that. And so I just have I'm a video editor by trade. That's my number one thing. And so a byproduct of that is then you kind of want to edit your own stuff, and then you pick up a camera and you start shooting. And then I think if you learn to edit first, it makes you a somewhat better shooter because you kind of know what material you need to put the thing together versus being a shooter and just shooting various stuff and then handing off to an editor and be like, hey, edit this.
Yeah.
So,
no, that makes a lot of sense.
what about you? How did what came first for you? Because you have to learn to edit at some point, but then I somewhat feel like it's a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be something similar. Growing up, middle school and into high school, I started making some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I used to be big into Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So I'd make some Call of Duty videos.
Yeah, do it. You get started. Everyone gets started somewhere, man.
Yeah. So I had done some vague editing, and my mom was a photographer. Growing up, that's how a lot of my mom made money, was through photography. She had a business, and the first camera that I had and used for a very long time, the first almost year of running Palmetto and Pine was a camera that my mom had
Yeah.
and took all my high school cross pictures.
Yeah.
And so, like, kind of passed down from her. And I don't know if maybe because of just seeing enough of what she did that I kind
Sure.
of maybe, I could see what she'd done. I saw some of her, like, vision and
Yeah.
maybe some of
Does
that.
she still do photography now?
No, not as often. I mean, she does occasionally. It's very
Yeah.
a much rarer thing, but she's still very much into it. And it's cool because I get to share my stuff with her
Yeah.
and show her what I'm doing, which is cool.
Dude, my aunt, my father's sister, was always taking photos. When we were growing up, she was always taking photos, and she had these amazing film photos that I like loved looking at when I was a kid. She still is into photography, and she still does it. And she's someone who like she and I have this special bond now where she'll send me a note and she'll be like, hey, I saw those photos on Instagram, I like love them, and I'll say like, hey, I saw your photos and these are awesome, and it's really cool. And then my grandfather unfortunately passed away relatively recently, and my aunt gave me this like photography award that my grandfather had won, and I didn't even know that he took photos. And so it's amazing to like think about. I don't know. I remember I saw it and I was like, I didn't even realize Granddad like took photos, let alone like he was like winning awards and stuff. So it's amazing that like this is now my job and my career, and it's a really special like bond. Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, I want to go. You mentioned before that your like first title when you came to Pinehurst was
Yeah.
digital storyteller. So kind of when did like storytelling? When did that like? Okay, obviously you mentioned the
Yeah.
movies and being into that.
Yeah.
But when did you first start trying to put together your own stories or tell stuff?
I think I love documentaries. I've always been into watching documentaries, consuming documentaries. When I say film director, I would have loved to have been a documentary filmmaker. And so it's something I've always been interested in. I'm fascinated just by like humans, which I feel like is such a weird, broad statement to make. But it's, I'm just fascinated by human stories. So it's something I've always been fascinated in, and how different people can be. And I don't know if there was one specific moment where I was like, now I love telling stories. It's just always been something I've been really fascinated in. Like I love my fiction, my nonfiction, but I think I would watch a documentary before anything. So yeah, it's something I'm really fascinated in.
And for you, what makes like a good story?
Right, great question. I don't know if there's like a. Don't know. It's like how long's a piece of string? Like I don't know. There's no right answer. Like you can have the most mundane story, but if it's told in the right way, then it's going to be interesting. So look, and there are obviously some things that you hear and you're like, oh my god, this is an amazing story. Ben Crow was a guy who was playing golf at UNCG at the time. He played the cradle after, I think it was the day of his father's memorial, maybe the day after. And he was playing with his mother, Melody. And Ben was obviously an amazing golfer playing at UNCG. He was playing 2 balls on the cradle, and he would, whichever one was further away, he would play and his mum would putt, or maybe vice versa. And then that's how they would play their match, because obviously he would smoke his mum, like if they played.
You gotta give her like 3 strokes.
Yeah, on the cradle, you know what I mean? And so on the 9th hole, he jars one, and then everyone's celebrating, and then he goes, oh, I got to hit another one for my mum, and he puts another one in the hole. And so something like that happens, and then he had this amazing eloquent quote where he said, like, I feel like my father was there to like see those. That is obviously just an amazing story, and you get this feeling where you're like, oh my God, I like can't wait to share the story, because like it's such an amazing story. But also it's like, I think the thing for me when I get something like that is I'm so excited, and I feel a semblance of, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like I have to do the people's story justice for them. So again, with the Hubbard story, I didn't want to make it shorter because I didn't want to cut their story short. They don't deserve that. And so I feel a level of responsibility, I guess, when I get a good story. But I don't know if there's like one, like this makes a good story, this doesn't make a good story.
And I'm trying to think, like, I mean, you've done a lot of like neat stuff. Like I'm thinking about like you're talking about the Father's Day, video, like that was a neat piece of content. I love the stuff with the vintage camera.
Yeah,
Like
with
you
the
had this,
camcorder.
and you
Yeah.
had the stuff where you found like the old vintage like camera and went and got it developed.
Yeah.
Like how, like, are you like purposely just like seeking out, like how do you go about finding some of this stuff?
Well, when we found the old cameras, one of the golf pros was, I can't take any credit for it. Alex Hankey, who is now the assistant pro at number 9, he was clearing it out for the US Open, and he was like, hey, do you want these? And I was like, hell yeah, I do. Like, this is cool. We should do something with this. And yeah, like, you know, again, that's just having a nose for a story, I feel sometimes. Like, it would have been easy to just call this person and be like, hey, we have your camera. I was like, hey, we got in touch. She knew that I was coming. I said, hey, do you want to do a video? She was like, yeah, I would love to. So yeah, again, just like telling that story a little bit. So
Yeah, that one's really neat.
yeah.
Is there a favorite one you've done so far?
No, I don't know. I find I have such emotional attachment when I
Yeah.
do these interviews with these people. I'm like a slave to recency bias. So, you know, I would say the Hubbard story would be my favorite, but it's not, because I love the Ben Crow piece that we did, or I love the video that we did with Ellie where we found a digital camera. I don't have a favorite. I love them all for different reasons. I definitely have least favorite pieces of content. The ones where we try to, you know, just do terrible, you know, where we're just trying something and it's stupid and whatever. We live, you know, there are a lot of failures. You have to fail in life, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, you have to be willing to try different things, because you never know what will work. You never know what
Yeah,
will
for
turn
sure.
into that a cool piece of.
I don't know what my least favorite piece of content is. There's a lot which have hit the editing floor though.
Yeah. How often do you ever have to scrap stuff? Do you ever? Like,
Yeah, we'll scrap stuff. You know, I never try and force stuff.
Yeah.
I'm never like, we have to put. Now we're getting to my like psyche of how we run social media, but like I'm not someone who's like, we have to post 5 times a week. I'm like, we'll post when we have good stuff, and if we have a bunch of good stuff, I'll post 3 times in a day. I don't care. But if we don't have good stuff, I'm not like, hey, we're going to put out some photos from last year because we need to serve the audience. Like, that's not how I do things. So again, maybe that's opinion of one. So who knows?
Okay. So, I mean, you work in a very unique position where I'm assuming, like, I want to ask you, like, what does your day-to-day look like? But I'm
Sure.
assuming it never is
Yeah.
the same.
For
But,
sure.
So what's the most surprising thing that, like, maybe people wouldn't expect about what your job typically looks like?
Sorry, say the question again. What's the least?
Yeah, like, what's the most surprising?
Probably the most surprising, like, the thing that people see is like the final product, right? But there's a lot of back end stuff. Now I'm getting into the like real boring nitty gritty, but like people see the photo or the carousel or the video, but like it's the boring parts of it. Like when I started at Pinehurst, they didn't have someone in house who created content, who was a photographer, videographer. So like I had to build a like asset management library system, and that's still not a perfect system. But you know, at Golf Channel or at the PGA Tour, there were teams of archivers, and so that's a really boring answer. But like that, you know what I mean? There's just boring. There's like stuff which you have to do, which I'm sure you know as well, like maintaining SD cards and all that boring crap is like a huge part of the job, which like is so not sexy. And then so when you struggle with the balance of like, hey, what's Matt producing? Like, is he doing his job? Versus like, yes, I am, but like someone has to like maintain this stuff as well. Yeah. But the exec team here and the senior leadership team are like nothing but supportive. So I'm very, very, very fortunate in that regard.
And I remember I was reading, it was like a written interview piece that I think you had been a part of.
Yeah.
And you had talked about how some days you can go out and like, I mean, technically you're on the job and you're working.
Yeah.
Like, you talked about one day you walked number 2 and like you didn't take any pictures you liked.
Yeah.
You didn't like, just nothing came from it.
Yeah.
Like, how do you balance some of that? Because like the creativity, it like, I've definitely realized it comes in waves.
For sure.
So how do you balance that when it's technically like it's your job?
There's no perfect science, and like I'm trying to get better at like accepting the lows, but you never do. You know, you feel low at times, and that's like fine because the highs are awesome. I'm always wary about saying like you got to force yourself to get out of the creative rut, because like to an extent you do, but also like just sometimes you got to just accept it for what it is. Like, I'm in a creative low. That's fine. And sometimes, I force myself to go and shoot something. Sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to sit and edit and I'm going to do more of the boring stuff. And like, there's no perfect solution to it, but just accepting it for when it does come kind of helps, I guess, a little bit. So, yeah.
It's been definitely an interesting piece to the brand because I've realized how much it comes and goes, it flows, and
Oh, for sure.
and then like the times when I do feel motivated or I feel like I'm really like
Yeah.
the creativity's there, I try to maybe push it a little bit, and then when I'm not feeling it, like maybe
For sure.
off the gas a little bit, kind of thing.
And you have to, and like again, you've got a brand to maintain, you've got a job to do, and you want to do it to the best of your ability. And sometimes that does involve saying like, hey, I need to take a step back for a couple of days, so that in a week's time I'm like ready to go and flash.
Yep. All right, that is Matt Gibson.
Hell
He's
yeah.
the senior manager of digital content at the Pinehurst Resort. Matt, I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, man.
That was a lot of fun.
Let's go hit my number 8.
Let's go swing 'em.
Not unless my wife asks, because I got these stitches in my hand, and so if my wife asks,
If we give you an update, Matt.
I didn't play any golf today. So, all right, let's do it.
Let's go.